Hey y'all, I'm getting good at this thing. My fourth podcast in a week straight. So that means a full month of podcasting. So thank y'all so much for rolling with me. And hopefully I can keep this thing going into the new year. So before I get into it, of course, you can check me out online, loniswain.com, and on social media at loniswain, LONISWAIN. Now, today's topic is one that I talk about all the time with my girls. And so I said, let me turn this into a podcast and see what y'all think about this topic. So there's a quote from one of my favorite shows, Sex and the City, that I think is a good segue into this conversation. It's from my favorite character on the show, Carrie Bradshaw. Well, they're all my favorites. I love them all. But Carrie once said, some people are settling down, some people are settling, and some people refuse to settle for less than butterflies. Now, I used to like to consider myself one of those people that refuses to settle for less than butterflies. However, the holidays coming up, everybody's booed up. You start to get a little lonely, feeling like, I really could go for a boo right now. And the people that you once felt like, he's cute, but he don't really have no job. The person that has the job, he ain't really that cute, but they start to look a lot better to you sometimes, depending on where you are. So it got me to asking, how can you really identify who's who? Who are the people that are settling? Who are the people that are just settling down? And who are the people that are refusing to settle? And where do you stand? And at what point or age do you start considering switching teams? Like saying, I was refusing to settle for anything less than butterflies, but I'm 45, my biological clock is ticking. I'm trying to be on the Janet program and I need to be pregnant by at least 50. So I need to start settling for some of these few options I have right now. And realistically, the more people you speak with who are married or happily even in relationships, they will admit that their significant other is not everything on their checklist. So it's a fine line between settling and compromising. And the way that I would make a distinction between the two is that settling is more so something that you do when you know that realistically it will and is a source of discontent for you. So, for example, dealing with something or someone that deep down inside you are always going to be disappointed with, or you're always going to feel like, oh, he's hideous. I really can't stand to look at him, but he's a nice guy, blah, blah, blah. 9 out of 10 times, if you feel like that and you're getting into a relationship with him, you're probably always going to feel that way about him. Whereas compromise, in my opinion, is more so choosing to accept something that isn't preferred in favor of gaining something that is. So, yeah, you would prefer that he didn't leave his socks in the middle of the floor, or you would prefer that she didn't wear her hair short, but it's not gonna be something that you look at every day and say, oh, I really want to strangle this person because they leave their socks in the middle of the floor, and literally consider strangling them. Or I'm so not attracted to this person with this short haircut, and that really is a distraction for you. Then in that regard, it may be too much of a deal breaker to settle for. And I guess that's kind of the thing too. Things that we put on our list as deal breakers, like I am not dating someone with kids for, X, Y, or Z reason, and then you date somebody with kids. Or I am not going to date somebody that has a drinking problem, and then you find yourself in a relationship with somebody that has a drinking problem. And things, I guess, that are more so big deals to you. But the good news is we only define what those deal breakers are for ourselves. But once you start accepting things that are on your deal breaker list, then I think that's when you start to fall under the umbrella of settling. And I sit here as a single and childless woman and have these opinions. I'd like to be married someday with kids. And back in the day, I think there was more of an expectation for people to start settling down pretty much right after high school and college. And now, not so much so. People are waiting till much later in life to have marriages and kids. You know, I referenced Janet Jackson already. Here it is. She's 50 having her first child. Halle Berry was over 40 when she had her first child. Was it that they were refusing to settle? Had they not come across butterflies? And then eventually did they? Because most people would not consider having your first baby at 50 to be an ideal scenario. Now, I haven't talked to Janet directly, but when do you start to say, okay, if I want a child, I'm gonna have to make it happen. Hey, you here right now? I guess I'll take you. Because I definitely do see from my personal friends and peer group, people that have said, oh, I would prefer not to date somebody with kids, but they end up with somebody who has kids. Or I would prefer to date somebody that's taller than me, but they end up with somebody that's shorter than them, but they treat them like a queen. So does that balance it out? Do they feel like they're settling? I don't know. Because realistically, I don't know that they would answer that honestly if they're with the person, because that's a choice that they committed to. So the dating dilemma continues. But I think that in closing, every day we have to make decisions and compromises and settle in some regards. As far as work, this job pays better, but it requires that we work more hours. Or which route to take to work. This one is faster, but I don't get to pass the Starbucks on the way. What outfit are we going to wear? This one looks better, but it's not comfortable. So why should we not expect to have to make some sacrifices when it comes to love? I think the big part of our resistance to settling is the negative connotation of it. I think that as a single and childless woman, I believe that when I meet the right person, any compromise that I would be making for the relationship would happen so naturally that I don't think it would feel like much of a sacrifice. So at this point in my life, I don't feel that there's an arbitrary age that you should hang up all hope of finding what you believe you want and deserve. I think I'd rather be getting married at 40 and having babies at 50 than to be married with children to a husband that I can't stand and never felt like I would, because I would always be wishing and thinking, what if I would have just waited another year? Maybe I would have met someone who would be more ideal for me. And I think that that is the single man and single woman's plight, and why people are getting married later on in life, because we're holding out this hope of finding not necessarily perfection, but the perfect person for us. And there's always that what if, you meet somebody and it's like, yeah, they cool, but, maybe there's somebody better for me. And as you go through more and more people and your body count gets higher, you start to wonder, okay, maybe, there is nobody better. So let me just take who I have now. And so you end up with exactly who you never thought you'd end up with. But I still believe the perfect person for me and you will show up. And, maybe the alternative is that we take so much time resisting and fighting what is actually perfect for us. And when that person shows up, totally contradicting everything on your list of what you think you want and need, they'll really teach us and show us what we actually wanted and needed in the first place. At least I'm hoping so. And I'm hoping it for you too. So let me know what you think about this topic about settling. Where do you stand when it comes to settling? And let me know if you have any other topics that you want to discuss in this here podcast. Hit me up at loniswain, LONISWAIN.